Tomlin, one of the best coaches in the NFL, hasn't won a playoff game in 8 years. So who has more to lose this season? Danny, we'll start with you. Rodgers or Mike Tomlin?
Mike Tomlin, not particularly close.
Really?
Yeah. Aaron Rodgers' legacy is secure. The guy's got 4 MVPs and a Super Bowl ring. The only person with more MVPs is Peyton Manning. Right. He is an all-time great by any metric, the career leader in passer rating, the only guy with a career passer rating above 100. He is one of the greatest to ever do it. If Brew's prediction is correct, that this will be the first losing season of Mike Tomlin's career. And I don't know that I'm going to make that prediction when the season comes around yet, just because I've made it for the last 4 years and I keep being wrong and I like to be right so much. But let's say that happens. Rodgers' legacy is secure, but I think the spotlight will then come on some harsh truths about Tomlin. It would then be 9 years since a playoff win for Mike Tomlin. Maybe they make the playoffs and lose, although with a winning record that wouldn't happen. But in those playoffs, gives up, 28 to Lamar, his defense, 31 to Josh Allen, 42 to Mahomes, 48 to Baker Mayfield, 45 to Blake Bortles. Like Mike Tomlin's vaunted defense gets gashed in the postseason.
And the offense actually not that bad in those games. Right. Everyone's like, well, they're scoring 10 points. Like, no, I think they're scoring like 29.
Right, but can he figure out offense consistently? Because it's been 5 different offensive coordinators since he last won a playoff game. So if Mike Tomlin finally gets Hall of Fame quarterback, his first since Ben Roethlisberger, and then he has his worst season, I don't think a lot of the blame nationally will be on Rodgers. In Pittsburgh, it might be split because a lot of them are still so loyal to Mike Tomlin, and they'll be upset at Rodgers and his antics and his interviews and how long it took him to go there. But I think it's going to force a lot of people nationally to take a hard look at Mike Tomlin and say, is he skating by on reputation that was built, frankly, over a decade ago?
I agree. I think it's more on Tomlin than Rodgers. Like you said, Rodgers is set. And in the short term, it'll be embarrassing for Rodgers. If I'm right and they go 8-9 and first losing season for Mike Tomlin, in the short term, it will be very embarrassing for Aaron Rodgers. It'll be a knock on him, for the time being. But overall, like Danny said, his legacy is secure. Michael Jordan's years in Washington weren't great, but nobody even thinks about those, So I think he's fine. Tomlin, I agree. And I think, look, obviously he has loyal fans in Pittsburgh, but he's also got a lot of detractors.
Yes, he does.
And they're loud. And so if they are to have a losing season or just don't make the playoffs, or heck, maybe make the playoffs and lose in the first round like they have been, people aren't going to look at Rodgers as he had a 42-year-old, Aaron Rodgers and blame Rodgers. I think they're going to say he had a Hall of Fame quarterback. We understood it with Russell Wilson, with Justin Fields, with Mason Rudolph. Now you got Aaron Rodgers, and you still couldn't get any further or get anything done. So now I'm not saying that'll cost him his job. And I'll be honest, if he did lose his job, or like you said, the Steelers don't fire coaches.
They've got 3 coaches ever.
Right. But I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world for Mike Tomlin, because he'd get a job quick, fast, and in a hurry, and he might be in a better position somewhere else. But I do think that if they have a failed season, like I'm saying, the heat is going to be more on Tomlin long term. Because look, let's face it, Rodgers is at the end. Tomlin still has a long career ahead of him if he wants it. And so that in and of itself puts more pressure on him.
We've got a lot of opening week matchups that are just A+, right? We got Bills, Ravens, got Eagles, Cowboys. This Steelers-Jets matchup
is a soap opera.
I think it's fascinating. And I know we're talking about when the season ends or if they're in the playoffs and flame out. I think we're going to get a referendum on the Steelers right away.
Yeah.
If you've got Aaron Rodgers in New York getting booed loudly, you've got Justin Fields looking across the field on a team that gave up on him, and I think that it will be very obvious, or at least very awkward for Steelers fans if Justin Fields is at the peak of his powers as a dual threat quarterback against the Steelers, and and is able to get a win over Pittsburgh. And here's the other thing that I think is interesting, just franchise-wise, Danny, give me your reaction to this. We like to have the drama be a lot about the players, right? Week 2, it's going to be DK Metcalf against the Seahawks. Oh, that'll be interesting. And it's Justin Fields is going to be mad at the Steelers, and Aaron Rodgers is going to be back in the play. Organizationally and GM-wise, I think it's very interesting. It's like, you know what? You're wrong. You're wrong about Justin Fields. We will take a shot, and he is better than Aaron Rodgers. And the Steelers are like, no, actually, you're the one that's wrong. Right. Aaron Rodgers is good. You couldn't make it work. It's just having like the literal franchise decision makers have two different outcomes on their quarterbacks, I think is fascinating, and I think it'll play out, and I think Justin Fields will end up winning.
Wow. So
most people would say, who's wrong, the Jets or the Steelers?
Correct.
Not the Steelers. I mean, historically, most people would say that, including you.
But not recently.
So recently the Jets haven't been right about much either.
I think they've been right about Aaron Glenn.
Well, I like
honestly,
Glenn.
I think it's almost like a I view Aaron Glenn, and we have very little, actual football videos outside of these stunning passes from Justin.
The slow motion passes of Justin Fields, he's a Hall of Famer. It was all slow motion. Justin Fields would be in Kansas.
The Aaron Glenn hire reminds me of the Dan Campbell hire, where it's just like, ooh, this may have been a cultural left turn where a pattern of losing. Mangini talks about Aaron Glenn. If you were going to have a coach to set the culture and put in a winning culture, and I don't know, man, Justin Fields was winning games with the Steelers. I just don't believe in an immobile 41-year-old quarterback in a mediocre offense.
So do you think there's more to lose for Rodgers?
No, it's still, I mean, the way the question is, there's more to lose. There's more to lose for Tomlin.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I think Tomlin prides himself on working with difficult personalities. And he's such a good coach, he's made it work. Yep. He'll make George Pickens work. He'll make Le'Veon Bell work. He'll make Antonio Brown work. And I think he's so good, he'll have that work until it doesn't. That being said, I don't know how this relationship is going to play. Like you mentioned that, is Tomlin going to have a type of Robert Saleh relationship with? I don't think so.
They have,
but I don't expect it to be, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes?
No, that's not. No one seems to have that relationship with Aaron Rodgers. Like that's the
in the world.
Right.
Well, except for Nat Hackett.
Yeah, allegedly him and Nat Hackett. But like the chaos that Rodgers brings with him is just a thing that cannot be predicted. Will he demand them to trade for Allen Lazard?
Yes.
Will he demand
I don't think that's being demanded, but that has already been out there.
Will he demand to wear Terry Bradshaw's number?
No.
What happens when Terry Bradshaw takes a shot at Aaron Rodgers, which he's done many times? Then Rodgers responds to a Steelers legend, and then Tomlin has to respond to that. What's it going to be like when Hayward was like, I don't want to wait around for Aaron Rodgers, and now they've waited around for Aaron Rodgers. Like, this is going to be a level of circus that is not normally associated with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
That's why I'm down on it, because Wiles knows, like, I have been predicting this will happen and should happen since the end of the season, and maybe even before that at that point. But now, because Rodgers dragged it out for so long when you could have done it a few months ago, now I don't like it the way it's happened.
I do think that the Steelers have known. I mean, he was in the facility. He's working out with DK Metcalf on a field. I think the Steelers have known a lot more than
it seems like it, but it's still. Why don't you just come out and say it?
Can I flip this the other direction, because we've been kind of pessimistic about this partnership? What is your most optimistic? Everything goes right. DK Metcalf is amazing. Mike Tomlin's defense is amazing. Aaron Rodgers' Achilles is back, and he's throwing darts, and he's got great chemistry with everybody. What is your most optimistic take on the Steelers?
Well, listen, Aaron Rodgers won MVP of the league at 38. And then at 39, he was pretty insufferable to get out of Green Bay. Mm-hmm. And then he ruptures his Achilles. And so then if you're right, and it just takes an extra year, we saw Tom Brady, 44 years old, playing great, leading the league in passing categories. Aaron Rodgers is that caliber of player. historically.
Yeah.
He is. So, I mean, is it within the realm of possibility that Aaron Rodgers can regain that form? I don't like to doubt all-time greats.
But how far is it? Like,
I mean, if Aaron
MVP
Rodgers is the
candidate?
MVP, if he's the MVP of the league, then the Steelers can win multiple games in January.
I have a hard ceiling on Rodgers. Conference championship game. If everything goes great.
It's a very high ceiling.
Right, but I'm saying, like, I was saying this even when he was at his best, because you know his record in NFC Conference Championship games, 1-4. All that wasn't the defense. In fact, lately, most of it wasn't the defense.
It was also Mike McCarthy.
Well, what about Matt LaFleur? Was it his fault? Was it LaFleur's fault or Rodgers' fault when they get down big at half in the first half against San Francisco?
Yeah.
So I just think, for a guy that never throws picks, he's got 9 touchdowns, 8 picks in his conference championship game. There's something there. So I think that would be the absolute highest ceiling, but I don't
see that happening.
get there.
The 8th best odds to win the AFC according to Hubs.
Yeah, I think they're going to miss the playoffs.
Okay.
Oh, now you're just, that's a take.
Okay.
This turbo hybrid makes your whole team feel at home.
Risk it, anyone?